The 6 characteristics of effective online courses according to Paloff and Pratt. The first characteristic of successful online courses is access to technology. Now, when we refer to access to technology, we're talking about all the participants in the course. We're not just talking about the teacher and not just the student, but both. And also, on some level, administrators as well, so that they can monitor the progress of courses and help teachers to become better online teachers. Participants must feel comfortable using the technology. We don't want technology to become a barrier to learning. We want it to become a part of the learning. We want it to be seamless. We want it to be effortless inside the course. We don't want it to be something that interferes with the acquisition of knowledge, but rather makes it easier for students to acquire knowledge and for teachers to dispense knowledge. And you always have to consider the learning curve, what's involved with students and teachers learning new technologies for their courses. And with that, we need to be able to provide adequate training for students, teachers, and administrators on all levels of technology inside the courses. Guidelines and procedures are the second characteristic of effective online courses. The guidelines and procedures for your course should be very clearly established, and they should be very clearly worded, and students should have easy access to these because these basically become your contract with the student. It tells the students what they can expect and what they should be doing in the course. It should be one of the very first items that you discuss in the course. Now, these guidelines and procedures can be embedded into your syllabus. They can be a separate part of the course, but they should definitely be one of the very, very first things that's discussed in an online course. And they should be made very clear to the student, and they should always be available to the student. So don't ever take those away. Make sure that they stay available to the students throughout the course. And these guidelines and procedures should stress netiquette. We've already talked about netiquette in a previous video, but please make sure that you're stressing those 10 principles of netiquette. And if you need to review those, go back and watch the video on netiquette again. Participation is the third characteristic of successful online courses. Students should be able to agree to some minimum standards for participation. So what I always advise teachers to do is to set up some sort of rubric for participation for the students and get their input on what they feel about participation guidelines, because ultimately they're the ones that are going to have to produce the work for you, and it makes it a little easier if the students have some sort of say in what you would like them or not like them to do inside the course as far as participation goes. Now, this isn't limited to just threaded discussions. This could be journaling, this could be assignment turns, and this could be group work. So you're going to have to look at participation requirements for all of those. Again, rubrics are very helpful for this because they clearly outline what the student should and should not do. And this goes back to guidelines and procedures. It all ties in together. The rubrics provide the guidelines and procedures for participation. So by all means, use rubrics for as many assignments as you possibly can. Begin this with the introductions. Your participation standard should start with the introductions because it's the logical place to start. It's one of the very first things you do in the course. So set up those guidelines for participation early and let the students know what you expect of them. And use open-ended questions. This will help to spur participation inside the course. So instead of asking short questions that can be answered in 1 or 2 words, make sure that your questions are complex enough that they generate multiple answers and that there are multiple ways a question could be answered. Collaborative learning. This is group work. Some teachers like this, some do not. As far as when to use it inside the course, we need to consider that solo interactions in online courses don't usually work very well. It makes the student feel isolated, and it can deter them from participating fully in the course. Group projects and open-ended discussions work very well. This helps students to feel connected to other students in the classroom because they feel as though they're a part of something instead of just a name or a number on a screen. It can also help to connect generations. This is according to Gene Mayroff in a book that he wrote called A Classroom of One. And he feels that by using collaborative learning, if you have students of different age levels in the classroom, it can help them to feel connected to each other in a situation where they'd otherwise feel very disconnected from each other. Transformative learning is the act of learning that occurs through the use of technology. So as you work in an online course and as your students work in an online course, you will in turn learn more about technology just by using it. That's where this term transformative learning comes from. So you're not actively learning technology, but because you're doing it, you're learning. For instance, your typing skills will improve as you participate in online courses more. You're not studying typing, but you're practicing it, so that act of transformative learning is taking place. Non-traditional methods can be very effective. So using things such as authentic assignments, group projects, poster boards, anything like that steers away from the traditional just multiple choice tests and things like that tend to work very well. And students should feel free to express insecurities and successes in the online course. So having an open area or open forum for the students to discuss things in that can be non-class related or class related can be very effective, because that helps to bring that social aspect of the course into the online environment. Assessment and evaluation is the sixth characteristic of effective online courses. We assess students' learning and we evaluate the courses. So these are two very separate topics. Assessing student learning helps us to evaluate the course, but it is in fact two separate acts. Assessing the student's learning can be done in one of two ways. You can use summative assessments and you can use formative assessments. In your online course, you can utilize just about any type of assignment that you would in a regular course. You can use tests and quizzes. You can use journal assignments. You can use discussions. You can use group projects. So anything that you would do in your regular course can then be brought into the online course. Evaluating the course itself gauges the overall effectiveness of the course in terms of student understanding. So it's important that we ask students how successful the course was, and also give them the opportunity to evaluate the instructor and the course to get their input and find out what they feel about the learning outcomes and how they were able to achieve them. Involving the students in the evaluation is key. So ask them questions. Don't be afraid to get their input, because ultimately, if you think about it from a business perspective, they are your customers, and you want to ensure that you are giving your customers what they want. And in terms of your students, they want a good learning experience. So if you have any questions or comments about these ideas of the 6 characteristics of effective online learning, be sure to post them in the discussion board below, and be sure to answer the questions that are posted in the discussion board as well.